This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Welcome everyone to our third shir in Orchos Chaim lhaRosh, as we learn in this incredible sefer, number 5 and number 6, number Hey and number Vav, for our third shir, sponsored by my good friend Yoel Klugman and family, Lili Nishmas Meshulam Ben Moshe Chav Bas Yudah Kain Klugman, and for the successful shidduchim of their children, Lefu Shalema for my Rebbetzin, Miriam Liba Bas Devora. And we start off with that one should also distance himself, herself, v'chein min harechilos, from tail-bearing. Now it's interesting, if you noticed, of all the biggies that he starts off with to succeed in life, most revolve around the mouth. Flattery, lying, deceit, scoffing, and now tail-bearing. There's a telling Gemara in the towards the end of Masechtas Sanhedrin. The Gemara says, Adam la'amal yulad, a man was created for toil, to toil in this world. Not to coast, not to have fun. It's not just a big amusement park, it's to toil. Any idea im la'amal malacha nivra, if primarily was created, she was created for the toil of work, im la'amal pen nivra, or for the toil of the mouth. Kishu Omer, which Shlomo HaMelech said in Mishlei, Ki ukaf alav piyu, person should have a saddle on their mouth, have a Omer Adam Lamal Pen Nivra. The primary major arena for achievement in this world revolves around the mouth. Now this is a challenge living in a society like America, where talk is cheap. You could say anything and get away with it. Where we have a presidential candidate now who has such a foul mouth, and he has a good chance of being the leader of the free world. The mouth in Judaism is everything. Hamaves v'chayim biyad lhaRosh. Death and life is in the hands of the tongue. It says that a man was created a nefesh chaya, a spirit of life, and the Targum says l'ruach memalula, a spirit that speaks. That's the defining difference between a human and an animal. The spirit, the power of speech. And that's our greatest arena. And here we have an example. The lhaRosh, when he talks about the way of life, he's talking all about how we talk. That's why, if you think about it, on Yom Kippur, when we say the al-chaitz, most of them revolve around talking. Al-chaitz shechatanu lefanecha, betipshus svasayim, the foolishness of the mouth, bedibur peh, betumas svasayim. It's all about the mouth. So v'chein min harechilos. Now rechilos, tail-bearing, specifically, is if I were to go to my friend and say, Chatzkel, do you know that Shmuel is talking about you? Could you believe it? Shmuel is bad-mouthing you? That's rechilos. That's a peddler, that's a tail-bearer. Now it's interesting, the Ravid says that rechilos is worse than lashon hara. The Rambam holds lashon hara is worse than rechilos, and everybody asks, if it means specifically rechilos, then why does the lhaRosh zoom in on rechilos and not lashon hara? In Teres Kahanim, it says that included in rechilos is lashon hara, and it therefore makes sense that it's right here in the very beginning of the lhaRosh's guide to a successful life. Because, we had a ditty when I was in school, lashon hara lamed, go to get him the easy way. There's a famous Yerushalmi Peah that says that the big three sins are Avodah Zarah, Gila Arayis, and Shvichas Damim. Idolatry, murder, idolatry, immorality, and murder. And lashon hara keneged kulam. This is like a contrast to the fact that it says Talmud Torah keneged kulam. So it says lashon hara keneged kulam. It's a ruination of man when man speaks bad about others. It's also tempting. And by the way, it's the Yetzer Hara, the Besser mention of better people. Because better people, they don't sin, but they look down at people that are not as good as them. And they're tempted. They're tempted to talk about people that talk in shul. They're tempted to talk about people that are not nice to their children or that don't learn Torah. But lashon hara is a ruination of man. I mean, we just look, the first sin of this caused by the snake spoke lashon hara about Hashem. And we know that Yosef spoke the Dibara that caused the terrible drama of Egypt. And we know that there were Dali Torah, like Dasan Aviram, that were willing to slander Moshe Rabbeinu. That's why we weren't redeemed. Moshe Rabbeinu said, "Achei no da'adavar." Now I know. And we know that the Meraglim spoke lashon hara about Eretz Yisrael, and therefore an entire generation of righteous people had to die in the desert. And we know that the second base of Mikdash was destroyed because of Sinas Chinam. The Maharsha says that the Talmidei Rabbi Kiva, the 24,000 of them, died because of the sin of lashon hara, because the death is askara, is diphtheria, which is for the sin of lashon hara. And this is something that's, we need a lot of siyata d'shmaya not to speak lashon hara. That's why, if you think about it, every day, 3 times a day in davening, we don't ask Hashem to help us keep kosher or Shabbos, even though Shabbos are very difficult. A woman doesn't say, Hashem, help me keep Taras HaMishpacha. But we say, Alakai nitzah l'shayni meirah, help me not to speak evil. Guard my tongue from speaking evil. It's a discipline. And the lhaRosh says if you want to have a successful life, you just can't say whatever you want. Now the Gemara says that the mouth has 2 gates, the teeth and the lips. But texting has no gates. It's really scary today, because by texting and then by mass emails, a person could wreak havoc in a way that was never dreamed of even by the Chofetz Chaim. A person could send out one email, an inflammatory letter about someone, and send it to all his contacts all over the world in a flash. Ruination in a flash. So a person has to really think, what do I talk about? That's what the lhaRosh wants from us. When he's telling us, a guide to life, he wants us to rethink our life. Do I think about what I say? Not just if it's true, right? Because lashon hara is even if it's true. But am I allowed to say what I'm saying about the councils in the camp, the lifeguard? Am I allowed to say this about the proprietor of the store? Am I allowed to talk about the person in shul, my next door neighbor? A relative? Amongst relatives? Remember, when we say Zachar, remember what happened to Miriam, she spoke about a relative. Be careful how you talk about your relatives. Now, number 6 is a biggie. V'chei min hakas. Distance yourself from anger. Now, anger is the fool's response to tension. Kas b'cheik ksil yanuach. Anger is in the bosom of the fool. That's how the fool deals. LFT, low frustration tolerance. That's how he deals with his problems. That's a fool's way. Kas is so detrimental that the Gemara tells us about kas, a very scary thing. Kol hakayes, kol minei gehenim sholtim by, which literally means, if somebody gets angry, he will need she will need all the treatments of hell to cure him. To cure her. You know, in Gehenna there's all kinds of treatments. There's radiation, there's chemotherapy, there's nuclear therapy. There's all kinds of treatments for different sins, all kinds of chambers. A person that gets angry will need the full gamut of treatment. That's how terrible anger is. That's the lhaRosh tells us how we have to stay far away from it. We have to change our response. It's very hard. Better to do it when you're young. But we have to think, what can I do that I shouldn't respond this way? Am I too tense so that I need to release my pressure by going to a gym? What do I need to do? Do I need to take a walk? Do I need to eat better? A person has to know that the Rav Miller used to say that kas is the same letters as eches, poison. Because kas is a poison. It causes high blood pressure, it causes diabetes, it causes heart attacks, and it is the ruination of a loving marriage. Because as many a women have told me, how could I really love him if at any moment he blows up and I never know when it's going to come? And the man has to be careful because after a while he doesn't even realize it. He's always reacting this way. His wife is trapped. And it says, Ovar v'shana nasa lo keheter. If you keep on repeating it and you keep on doing it, you don't even realize it anymore. Sometimes I speak in shul about anger, and I'm looking straight at a person and he's nodding his head that he agrees with me. And he's a person that loses it all the time in the house, but he doesn't even realize it anymore. Because it became so habitual, of a vishana. If you keep on repeating it, you don't even realize you're doing something wrong. But a spouse that has to live with an angry person, it's like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. You have to really work on it. This is something that really needs. And the Sefer Hasidim says that if a girl goes out with a man and sees that he has a bad temper, it's a deal breaker. Let her look elsewhere. It's a very hard life to live with an angry person. And this is something that we need to work on. You have to realize that when a person is angry, their brain stops functioning. The Rabbeinu Shalom teaches this to us by example. He tells Moshe Rabbeinu, you want to pray that I should forgive the Jews for this golden calf? Chavei ma'at rega ad yavar zam. Hide until my wrath passes. The Gemara says we learn from there. Of course, Hashem doesn't get angry. He's just demonstrating it for us. We learn from there, Ein meratzin la'odam b'shas kasei. Don't try to reason with a person when they're angry. As Rav Irving Bunim said, when a person is angry, their brain is in park. You ever try pushing the gas pedal when the car is in park? It goes nowhere. When you try to reason with an angry person, you can't get anywhere. Because the brain is in park. The brain stops functioning. And therefore a person has to be very careful. Now, especially on Shabbos. On Shabbos, we are told that lo sevaru eish b'chol moishvei seichem b'yom HaShabbos. Now, that's one of the 39 malachas. Why do we mention it? All the 39 malachas we learn out from the Mishkan. We learn out from a gematria ve'ela hadvarim. Ve'ela is 36. Eila is 36. Devarim is another 2, is 38. And hadvarim is another one, that's 39. Why does it single out kindling a fire? So the Zohar tells us it means that there should not be the fire of anger on the Shabbos day. And Friday also, especially 2 hours before Shabbos, when Adam and Chava sinned and they separated for 130 years. Satan was given then a reshus to drive a wedge between husband and wife. Person should not get angry on Shabbos. Rabbi Frand would say, if you're tempted to be angry on Erev Shabbos, you should know that it's only because the Satan has a power. And you should say, I will not let anything get me angry on Erev Shabbos. This has to be something that we have to seek and destroy. And that's the midah of anger that has no place. No place. The Rambam says that you always should strive for the Shvil Hazav, the middle road. That's why the tallest finger in the hand is the middle finger. The smallest is the thumb and the pinky. The tallest way is the middle road, except for anger and haughtiness. Anger, a person has to stay away all the way to the other degree. We want to thank you for joining us in this share. If you would like to sponsor next week's Haggadah share, $300, $360 to be a postal sponsor. If you would like to sponsor one of these shiurim, it's $180. Remember, Mishnah Yomis is there on Kol HaLashon from last time. The number to call the Mishnah is 718-906-6471. Thank you very much for joining us, and have a wonderful day.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.